So we'll close that, exit out here. So let's tuck those out of the way. So inside of here, we will need the SQL user utility. This will be SQL user connection. Anybody have any recommendations for this line of code, what we should do differently by any chance? What happens if our SQL connection string name changes?
I'll make it a string so that you can just reference it one spot.
We make it a constant string in the app. So we can come up here, at least in the form, and we can say public const SQL con string name. No, const string. So then instead of typing out that connection every time, we just reference that variable. And then if we need to change it, we change it in one place and everybody picks it up. All right, so then we will say if e.user is null, we should probably do that ahead of time, but something happened, I don't have a user. Sad face. So we'll say user util dot add user, and we'll pass an e.user. I'm going to wrap this in a try catch block because it ultimately will be making a database call. And I don't want my program to choke and puke when something bad happens. So I'll say messagebox.show ex.message. Message is a property off of the exception object. There's also the stack trace, inner exceptions. So exceptions can actually be nested together. That's that idea of kind of abstraction or obfuscation. You can take an exception, catch it, create your own exception, and then stuff that exception inside of it. From the debug perspective, you have access to these inner exceptions. From the runtime perspective, only the topmost exception is what the user sees. So if you want to be able to carry that information along and you have maybe a debug or a event logging framework built into your app, and by built in I mean you either wrote one or downloaded one, you can actually capture those internal exceptions and write them to a text file database, something to say, hey, this is what happened. Here's the top level error, but then digging deeper, it's actually this issue. And you can do while loops and loop through those to get the closest. In this case, we'll just do a message box and just show the message for the exception. And then once all of that is done successfully, we will load users. This is your refresh. So we'll add user, and then this is a short validate. And if that's an error, we'll return, and if that's an error, we'll show it, and we'll still refresh. All right, so let's start. Oh, before we start,